Bruker Icon Web allows running automated remote NMR experiments in a web browser. So if we go to a web browser where in this tab I have a live view of a Bruker 400 MHz NMR spectrometer, that we are going to switch over to Icon Web and log into the system. And in this case, we're going to log in for Chemistry 343 users at ASU. And this is the interface that allows you to, in a web browser, remotely add and submit NMR experiments to this spectrometer. So scrolling up, each of these holder positions are the Sample Express automated holder positions. And you can add as many different experiments to each one of the holders, which each hold a sample. So the Express has up to 60 samples in it. And in this case, it'll allow you to, for example, add and try to run an experiment even in one of the positions, like for example here, position 50, that doesn't have a sample in it. So the reason for the live view is you can quickly deduce where your sample or where the range of samples are in the Sample Express and which ones do not have samples in them. In this case, we have NMR samples for Chemistry 343 in the samples position 1 through 10 in the spectrometer. And information about that is given on a Google Sheet of what these samples are. So we want to restrict ourselves just to holder positions 1 through 10 here. Anything we start past that, it's going to error out at it's not able to load a sample because there is not a sample in that holder position. So if we wanted to, for example, start an experiment in position number 7 here, where there's already been one run, we could add another experiment to that. And for example, right now, all of these green have already been run. This blue arrow is indicating it's being run right now. And these indicate all the experiments that have been run on each of these samples that are in these holder positions. So experiments have been run in the first 4 samples in holder positions 1 through 4. Number 5 hasn't been run yet, neither is number 6, and then 7 through 10 have. So let's add an experiment to number 6, which is acetylacetone in deuterated toluene. So we can go and click on number 6, we can hit add, and then for the data to be uploaded, you need to add your Spentropy account. In this case, it's ASU_Chem 343. We want to pick the solvent for that sample, which is deuterated toluene. Want to pick the experiment we want to do for Chem 343. That's usually one of the top 3. So a quick single scan proton, a longer 8 scan, or a long 32 scan. Each of these have a 1 minute or 60-second delay, so this will be a 30-minute experiment, 8-minute, and 1 minute. Let's just pick a 1 scan experiment here. You can put it in a specific experiment number, and you could add, if you have multiple experiments you want to do on that same sample, you can add multiple experiments to it. And then we're just going to give this a title, video, demo, but you could put information about the sample here, information about the NMR. You can treat this as a comment field to give yourself information about the sample after it's been run. And then most importantly, a name. So we're going to call this, I always start with the date, 2023. This is February 16th. And again, we're just going to, the sample is ACAC in toluene. And for completeness, I'll just say video demo, so that we could identify that sample. So that'll be the sample name. We have, now we can check, we have all of the information. The only thing we haven't filled out is the mol file. If you have a molecular file, you can upload it here. You can increment through sets of names if you're going to run multiple sets. And the default temperature is 298. So we can now add this experiment, and you can see it has added it to sample in holder position 6 here, and it has a pause button. We could add more experiments, and it would add more and more to here. In this case, I'm really going to add this one, and then I'll close this window, because what this has done is it's left our main window here, and it added an extra tab. So it's just going to close that tab window, and now we can see in the main view, we have right here the experiment we've added into sample 6. So this is holder position 6, and then you can have multiple experiments that run on that sample in the sample holder position number 6. If we now go to this one, we can submit it. And as soon as we hit submit, it will turn this into this pink kind of calendar saying it is in the queue to be run. And up here, it gives you an indication of what's being done. So now it is going to that sample position. And again, you could follow it here on a live view to watch it in real time, go to that sample position and put it in here. So you can see here's sample 5, and it is already put in sample number 6. I will warn you, this live view oftentimes, so this is a view of the entire spectrometer. You can see all 10 samples here, and you can zoom in to look more closely. You can also zoom over to the view where you can show that there's 10 samples and that 11 through 60 are empty. So if you try to start experiments there, it will let you add something, but when it tries to execute that, it'll realize there's no sample there and give an error. Oftentimes, this live view will sometimes freeze. My hack for getting that working is just to kind of click on the information and then click back on the live view, and it usually tries to refresh. Okay, so going back to Bruker Icon Web, now we can follow it. It is now locked it, it's shimming it, it'll acquire the data, and if you've given it a Spentropy name, it will upload that data to Spentropy. And you can see where experiments are running here in this bottom one. So it's running the one we just set up in sample holder number 6, which is acetyl-acetone and toluene. With this name, this experiment, it's going to the Spentropy account here. And it's currently loaded. It's done an auto tune and match, and it'll check off as it completes this run. And ones that it fails, like for example here, somebody tried to start something in holder position 60 where there's not a sample, so it failed to load that, there's not a sample there. Same when somebody tried in sample position number 50. So each one of these little spinner icons is indicating a sample holder position, but you have to verify that there's a sample in that holder position of the auto sampler, and that's really what the live view is doing here. So for students, we've provided information about the samples that are in the sample holder, and the next stage would then be to recover the data. And so this is automatically uploaded to data in the cloud at Spentropy. So students have have the login information for this account, and if you go to data as the things are run, for example, the one that was running when we started, will show up here. You can view it and download this. If you download this data as a zip file, you can then drag and drop it into NMRium for browser processing and analysis. So I hope that gave you a practical overview and some of the kind of practical aspects of setting up remote automated NMR experiments using the Bruker Icon Web Edition in a standard web browser.